You can't buy a Toyota Hilux in the United States, not because Toyota won't sell it to you, but because the American government literally bans it.
It's finally time for us to get the Toyota Hilux Champ, light-duty basic pickup truck that will likely sell for less than $20K.
It looks like a grown-up side-by-side. Wow, that's cool. That'd be a great work truck.
Now, it'd be nice, like, first off, if we could just order this thing from Toyota, but we can't. I regret to inform you that we can't. And so for them to be able to sell this to us in America, really what they'd have to do is they got to build plants to manufacture this in America. There's a lot of movement that would have to happen. You would have to build plants, and then you'd also have to make the bet that the next presidential administration would not come in and just make them illegal again afterwards.
Why are they illegal?
Well, there's a couple things. The number one thing is safety. The other main reason you can't get this here Helix is because of something called the chicken tax. You ever heard of that?
No.
Chicken tax? Well,
No.
Good. Here you go. The chicken tax, by the way, is a tariff that we have in law that adds a 25% cost to the import of light trucks. Basically, we got to jump on farming versus Europe, and our chicken was a lot cheaper than the chicken you could get from Europe immediately following World War II. So a lot of those countries out there were buying American chicken. Those countries decided they did not want their people to buy this cheap American chicken. They wanted their people to buy the more expensive European chicken. And so what did they do? Like any tyrannical government would do, trying to protect its own workforce, I guess. France and Germany had imposed tariffs and price controls on U.S. chickens. Early 1962, U.S. businesses complained of losing sales. At the end of the year, they estimated they lost 25% of their sales due to European intervention in the chicken market. European and U.S. diplomats tried without success through 1963 to reach a trade agreement on said chicken. You might be thinking, okay, so I can't get the Toyota Hilux? Like, is that... What is a chicken tax?
Well, this is why. This is the effect your government has on
I know.
Meanwhile, freedom.
Meanwhile, the American auto industry was suffering a trade crisis of its own. Imports of Volkswagen cars surged in the early 60s as Americans embraced the Beetle, drugs, and its cousin, the Type 2 van.
The cute little cars.
The cutest little cars you ever did see.
Some of them very beautiful, I might add.
The situation was dire enough that U.S. automakers and the United Auto Workers Union brought the issue of German auto imports to the presidential bargaining table.
We can't compete.
No.
Do something.
The UAW, a union, had significant leverage. President Johnson had been trying to persuade the president of the UAW not to call a strike just before the 1964 election. So what happened? Collusion, corruption. That's what happened. The president also wanted union support for his civil rights agenda. He got what he wanted in return for including light trucks in the chicken tax. Volkswagen sales of trucks and vans in the U.S. plummeted.
Jeez.
So in this here chicken tax was included light trucks, 25% tax on potato starch, 25% on dextrin, and a 25% tax on Brandy. I don't know who Brandy is, but they did not want
Never heard of her
coming over here at all. Now, what's interesting...
Any girl named Brandy.
Now, what you may have noticed is that all those other taxes, those specific imports, they're gone. And so the only tax left over from said chicken tax is the tax on light trucks. That, of course, is still called the chicken tax. Now, the problem is this is actually written into law. This is not an executive order. This is not LBJ just being crazy. This is actually written in the law, and to end the chicken tax, you'd have to go to Congress. It would take an act of Congress to get rid of this here tax. And so they're not going to do that. That's not what's going to happen.
Can't they just sell it and people pay the 25% premium?
Well, I still can't sell most of these things because of the safety standards and the emission standards. Still can't do that. This is just, the chicken tax is one important part of why you're not going to get these cheaper vehicles. But the U.S. government has set up many different layers of reasons that you're not allowed to buy cheaper vehicles like people in other countries are. And that is to protect the domestic auto industry from competition. One thing that they've done, by the way, those domestic
This is
auto,
how, by the way, this is how free you are
Yeah.
in America.
so free.
This is your freedom at work.
There's a famous example of Ford to get around this. So even like vans were included, but not passenger vans. So if they were like if it's a work van, which is like a truck with a full body on it, basically, well, that gets the 25% chicken tax. So what they would do is they would actually ship the vehicle from Turkey. It's confusing. It's a chicken tax. They're shipping it from Turkey. They shipped it with glass and passenger seats in it. So it was shipped over as a passenger vehicle.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it landed,
That was on the Falcon boat.
yeah, as soon as it landed in Emu, California, right off the boat, they would strip it of the glass, the seats. They would weld on plates over where the windows went, and they would use it as a utility van. There's other examples of them shipping over trucks with no beds. So it's not a truck. There's no bed on it. It's just a vehicle. It's a chassis with a front end on it.
Just a cab.
The bed is sold separately. Like, you know, at the bottom, you check to see if the batteries are included.
Yeah.
Some of these trucks, you'd have to check and make sure that the bed was included with the truck. But if it was coming from overseas and it was light truck, they ship it without the bed. You got to buy the bed separately. The bed could come over too at a 2.5% tax rate because that bed is also not a truck. Problem is, these are very far away from being safe enough to be driven on U.S. roads. I'm just telling, like, okay, Trump is going to talk about how we're going to deregulate and do these things. This is a massive ordeal that has to happen. And then you got to plan on the next administration not doing it too. And these are all the things the government has done to make things just more expensive. You know what's actually happening? I'll say it before I forget. These big auto manufacturers don't want to have to compete against those things. You know how much cheaper those things are to produce? How much easier they are to produce when you don't have to comply with all those safety and emission standards, or what? They're probably fine on emissions. They're so tiny, got little motors in them. All those safety standards, that's expensive stuff you got to go through to comply with all the Transportation Safety Board mess they got to put you through. They don't want to compete against that stuff.
That's why they're the ones who ask for all the regulations.
They love these regulations.
Yeah, it makes it more expensive. It's harder for competition to enter the market.
This goes on to say, but the kind of changes that President Trump appeared to request during the press conference are focused on broader federal approval to manufacture these pint-sized models. The kind of federal standards at play here are mundane on paper, but critically important to automakers around the globe. We're talking about dimensions for minimum front-end width requirements. You must be this wide to drive. That's what they say. Or the distance across a seat cushion. I mean, that's up to them.
That's what I love most about my truck, by the way. It's got a big, nice, wide seat.
You know, if they want to manufacture cars that half of America can't fit in, that's fine. You know, that's on them.
But here, put a motorcycle seat in there.
You just get in there like straddling it.
And instead of a steering wheel, we got motorcycle handlebars. And then just have a car around it.
These things are basically golf carts that are enclosed.
Yeah.
Is pretty much what they are. But also about the angle of a hood as it relates to striking a pedestrian. Okay? I'm pretty sure the pedestrian could take these things. And the sturdiness of a crumple zone in a crash. A few things I have to do to be able to get these tiny cars, and I hope Trump does every single one of them. The first would be for Congress to update the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act, which is you're waiting on Congress to do something. So, all right, strike that. That's not going to happen. Alternatively, the NHTSA officials could update the FMVSS with new widely applicable rules that allow for significantly less safe vehicles to be manufactured, or new special rules written to apply exclusively to these tiny vehicles. However, DOT officials would be required to post a notice of proposed rulemaking for these changes, allowing a variety of stakeholders, public, industry, and expert to comment in a mandatory process that can take years.
This is also nuts to me. You're telling me that the people can't just make a product and sell it to you if you want it.
Nope.
It's so wild. This is what's so wild. You know what? If there was something out there that was killing a bunch of people would stop buying it.
Yeah.
That's just how that works.
So anyway, the point is, sorry, if you want to get one of these cheaper vehicles, you ought to be able to get one, but you're not allowed to do it. They would be way cheaper, and they would create downward pressure on the whole car market because people would have a cheaper alternative.
Because what lowers prices?
More competition.
Competition.
Yeah, that would be good. But
amen and a woman.
now the people who run these companies, they're going to be super excited about this and be like, yeah, we're going to be able to, that's going to be good. We're going to be able to manufacture some cars. They're not going to be like these. And by the way, they're going to help write the standards if they are going to change any standards. They're still going to make them difficult to comply with. And they're going to write them to where they can immediately comply with them. And other companies would need a decade to be able to comply with them. And that's just the way it's going to happen.